Brad, what's up, man? Welcome to the Dad Edge, my friend.
I'm glad to be here.
It's good to have you. Grace
Thanks.
and marriage. How did you come up with grace marriage?
The ministry or the concept?
How about both?
Well, we'll start with the concept. Um, I spent the better part of my Christian life just always feeling a lot of pressure. It's like I need to pray more, I need to study more, I need to read more, I need to do. And I had a buddy of mine who's 25 years older than me. He said God told him to save me 25 years of trouble. And he said, basically, your hope's in your performance, not in the grace of God. Because you go to bed every night, and if you worked really hard and you did everything, you feel good about yourself, and you didn't do just what you don't. And it just like, and I resisted it, but then it just kind of hit me. One time I almost heard God say, Brad, you're not okay, and it's okay. And man, it's almost like I just felt the weight come off of me, man. It was like I could enjoy life. I just didn't feel that scripture, easy burden, light yoke, rested soul. Man, the whole thing felt hard. And then all of a sudden it didn't feel hard anymore. And all my relationships took off because I was just able to enjoy them more and not just always feel under this heavy deal. So that's how the concept came about. And then I kind of realized that, man, we all do our best, but we all struggle. And, I want to do great in marriage. I don't always do great in marriage. Mary must do great in marriage. Don't always do great in marriage. So if our hopes, our consistency, man, it's going to be a roller coaster. But if it's just like Marilyn loves messed up Brad and we just have a blast together, and I love messed up Marilyn, we have a blast together, and we just give each other grace for for where we fall short, that seemed to really work. So that's where the concept came from.
In your experience, do you think that there's not a lot of people that give each other grace in marriage? In fact, it's maybe flooded with unset expectations and resentment.
Absolutely. It's their natural default setting. I mean, it's like we want people to act like we want them to act, and we don't. We get frustrated when we're married. We try to talk them into or somehow get them to be what we want them to be. And then over time, we realize it doesn't work, and we just settle into this norm we can tolerate, or we check out. Neither one of them's very good. And kind of grace gives you gives you another option that's actually works.
Why do you think people check out? That's a common theme that I see in marriages quite a bit. In fact, there's been studies on it in the Gottman Institute that actually talk about that very thing, which is, 50% of divorces, I'm sorry, 50% of marriages end in divorce.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 50% that stay together, according to some of the surveys and studies that Gottman did, is they're actually divided up equally into three camps. Like 33% of people stay together, actually more like you and I, like they've learned a lot, they grow together and they really wouldn't change a whole lot. They love the person that they're with and they make it work. Right. And they have a growth mindset when it comes to their marriage. Then there's the next camp, which is the next 33%. And it's more like they've settled or they've gotten complacent or they're just like, it is what it is, whatever. I'm just going to kind of coast. And then the third camp is completely and totally checked out. They live totally separate lives, but they live under the same roof. But why do you think that is?
Well, why do you think that the group that just kind of functional coexistent category where they just kind of go along side by side in a norm they can tolerate, or why the group that checks out checks out?
So I would say the middle group, not so much the
Yeah.
people that totally check out, but I'm talking more
Yeah.
like, you have two people
Yeah.
that I think at the foundation of their relationship, they probably want to be together,
It's
but
it,
they're probably also like, I don't really know how to make this relationship flourish. It just seems like we're at a stalemate. We're stuck a little bit, but I want it to be there. I just don't know what the next best move
it,
would
it
be.
it's a combination of things. One of them is it's just the busyness of life. I mean, you've got kids activities, you're running here, you're running there, you've got work demands, you got financial demands, you got all these things. So it's just you end up just going through the motions. It's you ask that middle camp, would you like a better marriage? Most of them would say yes. They have no idea how to get there, and the whirlwind of life is dominating them. That's part of it. The other part is just kind of a lack of hope. It's like, well, we've tried a few things. We've been to a conference here and there. Nothing really changes. So it just kind of is what it is. And, could be worse, could be better, but it's just a norm we can tolerate. So they just ride it out their whole lives, which is kind of depressing, because it's like it could grow and it could be so much fun. And there's an answer for it. And the answer is not all that hard. It's just not many of them have been given the answer or been given really coaching or how do you get out of that spot and then really have a blast in marriage with your best friend in the world.
So what do you think is I mean, I know we're really globalizing this, as far as
Mhm.
like, well, this is, but every couple is probably a little different, but there's always similar themes. I know part of what you and Marilyn do, like you guys, you help people with marriage prep, and
Mhm.
you probably have also in the past you've obviously have helped people, um, also, get through tough times. But what are some common themes where you see people stuck? Like, I think we've already
Mhm.
identified that, but just the simplest, the next right things that they can do.
Well, you look at the Gottman studies, his findings are really, this is probably a little oversimplified, but not much oversimplified. The more time you spend together in undistracted time, the more marital satisfaction you have. So time is kind of the container a marriage grows in. So, I've used the analogy before. If you put a plant in a real little pot, it can't mature, it can't grow, and it just kind of gets stuck and sometimes dies. But if you put it in a real big pot and then you nurture it, man, it can flourish and become huge. So the battle is getting couples to just say no to things of the world just to spend time together. And that's really been a key for our marriage is we just every single week, no matter how busy we are, no matter how difficult life is, it's like our marriage is important. We're going to make space for it. We're going to talk daily and we're going to date weekly. And that's a non-negotiable in our life. My mentor told me, he said, dude, you get to play with your own chips and your time's your chips. And you get to decide how much time you want to put with Marilyn. And for me, I've decided I want to talk to her every day and I want to enjoy her for at least 3 to 5 hours once a week. And we've done that for 27 years and it's worked.
So I agree with you. I mean, one of the things that's so important for me and Jessica is to have weekly date time. And I think it's really, really important for us to really redefine like what is a date? What is a
Exactly.
date, right? And
Yeah.
I think so. I've posted this out in some of our groups. We have a group called the Dad Edge, Dad's Living Legendary.
Mhm.
We've got about 20,000 men in there, and it's just this really great place for men. And it's nothing that we charge for. We have a mastermind that we charge for, but then we have men in that free group. And basically, all it is a Facebook group where we exchange ideas, ask questions,
Mhm.
and that kind of thing. And I've posed questions around, why don't you take what is the top reason you don't do a weekly date with your wife? I actually purposely didn't frame the question as a date night
Mhm.
or even an outside the house date.
Mhm.
It was really just a weekly date, basically a weekly time. And it was really fascinating the comments that came back. Some men are like, this is a non-negotiable. We have to make time for our relationship every single week. If we don't, these things happen. And then there are some men where I can't afford to take my wife out to dinner. We're working too much, or we're way too busy, or we got this or that going on, or we can't find a good babysitter, or this or that. And the funny thing about the post is it said nothing about even leaving the house. It said nothing
Mhm.
about taking your wife to an expensive dinner. It said a date, which my wife and I just this past weekend, as you and I are talking, we had a date night in. And it was
Mhm.
so cool. We told the kids, we're like, hey, we're all going to eat dinner together as a family. And then what mom and I would like to do, if it's cool with you guys, is if you guys want to go downstairs, because they've got like their stuff down there, their toys and
Mhm.
all those stuff. I was like, if you guys want to go downstairs, like mom and I would really like to have some mom and dad time tonight where we talk and you guys play. Is that cool with you? And they're like, and they looked at us, they're like, yeah, sounds great. Like, so
Mhm.
they did that. And they were downstairs, we were upstairs, and that was a date night in. And we had about 3 hours. But I think that it's really important for us to define what is a date. So in your mind, what's a date?
It's right where you are. It's undistracted time together. It's just two of you undistracted together. It's not dinner and a movie. I mean, when we first got married and I just started to build my law practice, I mean, we'd brew a pot of coffee, put it in a thermos, and go to the river and sit and talk for 3 hours, and their total day cost was about 75 cents. So it's the issue is just time to talk, and the part of the reason people don't date, and it's a little off your question, is they don't want to. it's you typically do what you really want to do, and you've probably found that the more you spend time with your wife, the more you want to spend time with your wife.
I
And
do.
you find folks that get rigid with the date night for about 4 to 6 months, man, they start really enjoying each other more and more, and then they get to a point where it's not a discipline for me now; it's a desire.
Oh,
It's a delight.
100%.
The first part was a discipline. I mean, we weren't getting along that great. We didn't really want to go on dates that much, but then the longer we did it, I guess where your treasure is, your heart will be. Also, we kind of started digging each other again. So
You know, what's really funny about that is, you know, you talk about this discipline, and I never really thought about it that way, that because, you know, Jessica and I, like, she is my favorite person.
Mhm.
She's my favorite person to spend time with, to hang with, to work out with, to go out to eat with, to walk with, to talk with. Like, I never
Yes, I'm same
really
way.
get bored of it. But I have felt this way for a long time. But it's interesting because as soon as you said what you just said, I'm remembering what it was like when we were really trying to rebuild our marriage, because it wasn't always great. We've been married 20 years. The
Yeah.
first half of it was not great. And I remember, like, being frustrated in the beginning, and I think she was too, of like, what do we do? Like, how do we communicate? Like, what do we talk about?
Mm.
And now, you know, we've done this now for so long that even on date nights, we don't talk about the same high level managerial things. We ask each other like super deep questions. Even
Mhm.
if we think that we might know the answer because we know each other so well, we'll still ask it, because what we have found is over the years is we're always like pleasantly surprised at how just we're getting to know each other over and over and over again, and how we grow and evolve. And the interesting thing, and I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but I know now what I say to people when they come to me and they're like, dude, we've been together 19 years. We know everything about each other. And I know what I say to them, but what do you say to them?
Yeah, I'd say circumstances are constantly changing and people are constantly changing, and knowing one another is a daily habit and a daily discipline. It's not something where you just know somebody. I mean, our life the last 3 months has been like it's never been, and a difficulty standpoint. The next 3 months could be easy, could be hard, but life changes us and circumstances change. You've got to consistently get to know one another. And a lot of times, it's people, dates not always real fun. I mean, we had a period where my wife, full year, depression, anxiety. I'll spare you the details, but we went through hell and back with some child health issues that were just really rough. Every date, Marilyn cried. We'd sit down at the restaurant. She'd try to hold together in front of the kids. As soon as we sat down, she just sobbed. But it's like our marriage is valuable, and we're gonna spend time together in every season. The seasons are gonna vary. Some are a blast. I mean, we're having a blast right now, but some not so much. But I mean, marriage is, I mean, it is the foundational relationship of our family, the most important horizontal relationship in the world. It kind of defies logic not to spend time investing in it.
Do you believe in being, I know you're a faith based person. Do you believe in being married first and you're a parent second? And if so, why?
Absolutely. Well, I could give you a ton as to why. I mean, I'll start with pragmatically. The marriage sets the atmosphere of the entire home. And really, there's nothing you can do as a dad better than to show kids how to love a woman well and what a great marriage looks like. I mean, so from a pragmatic standpoint, so my oldest daughter got married. Well, guess what? After she'd been married 4 months, and I said, "How's your life going, Madeline?" She said, "Dad, it's been the best 4 months of my entire life." I'm like, "Why?" She was, "Zach and I, we're going to date every week. We talk every day. We're having an absolute blast. He's my best friend. I love." She does not know another way to do marriage. That's all she's seen for her entire life. So it sets your kids up for success when you show them how to do life well. So that's, from a pragmatic standpoint, that's the case. And from just a general quality of life standpoint, I don't know what you found, but man, I just do better when Meryl and I are doing well. I mean, I just do better. I've got more confidence. I enjoy life more. Everything's better when we're doing well, and everything's worse when it's not. And when we quit spending time together, I don't know if you found this, but even if we miss one or two, we can feel a difference and a little bit of a
100%.
distance. And so it's just a bad way to live, not doing well in marriage. And it's kind of that relationship that if it doesn't go well, kind of everything below it starts to erode and crumble. So, you could write a book on the question you asked, but that's just a few thoughts.
I've put that question out on social media, especially like the landmines of Instagram,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you're married first and parent second. What are your thoughts? And you'll get people that like throw stones at you on that one. It's
Oh,
like, no, it's all about, it is about the kids. The kids are the focus. And I mean, people,
that's even bad for the kid.
I agree. I totally agree with that. I mean, I think, I'm in the same camp as you. my wife and I have had extensive conversations about this because I have 4 boys, and I know you have 1 boy and 4 girls, but I honestly feel that it's my responsibility because my sons have a front row seat to Jessica and I's relationship, and it's my responsibility to show them this is how you love a woman. This is how you communicate. This is how you talk. This is how you conflict resolute. This is how you show grace and patience, and this is how you're affectionate. And my wife feels the same responsibility. She's like, I need to set the bar very high and show these young men what it means to respect and appreciate and love your man, and to treat him with kindness, and to treat him with love, and not to emasculate him and all these different things. And I'm happy to say my oldest son, as you and I are talking right now, he's not dating anybody, which is really fascinating. I'll get to that in a second. My 15-year-old has been dating a young lady for a while, and she's fantastic. She actually reminds me a lot of my wife, which is really fascinating. My wife is just super down to earth, kind of a tomboy at heart, played sports and that kind of thing. And my son is dating a very similar young lady. My oldest son, though, we always ask him, they're like, are you interested in anybody? He's like, I see a lot of beautiful girls at my school, but nobody I want to waste my time on. And I'm fascinated by that, because when I was 17, 18 years old, all a girl had to do was look really hot, and I just wanted to date her, and I'm like, why is that? And he's like, they're idiots. Like, I mean, that's his definition of basically saying, I think that's his way of saying, I know what good looks like, and this is not it for me. Like, yes, they're beautiful, but they're not, it's nothing that I would want to waste my time with, which is really fascinating to me when it's a young man like that.
We've had the same experience. I've got a daughter who's a sophomore at college. I mean, she's beautiful, fun, funny, gets tons of attention, asks out a ton, has not dated anybody in college, and she says the same thing you say.
Really? I mean, that's fascinating.
It's the exact same thing, because it's like she doesn't see in any of the guys their motives and everything around it that they have any potential of having what Marilyn and I have, or so yeah, it's the impact it has on on your kids, and I believe the influence that your podcast and your write and all the stuff you do, I bet you can trace a whole lot of it back to the relationship between you and your wife. I mean, I mean, if you could quantify, why is it that you have given favor with people to influence people? I think a lot of it's the wisdom you've gained by doing marriage well.
It wasn't always so. I mean, there are still days, we stumble, but but I think overall we have a really good foundation. It's interesting though, I don't want to lose track of one of the things that you said, because I think it's so important. Jessica and I feel the exact same thing that you and Marilyn feel if we've gone 2 or 3 weeks without spending dedicated, quote unquote, I'll put this in quote, date time together, right? And we actually have a term for it. We call it spinning in different orbits. So we can always sort of tell, like, we're both getting busy with our individual responsibilities, or we're trying to divide and conquer the boys, or she's got this, or I got that, or this is going on, or that's going on. And we start to feel like this bit of a drift between us, but we both sense it, and we're both very sensitive to it. And then we'll both kind of come to each other and be like, hey, and this is our cue. I miss you. And actually, that's also a cue that, like, we haven't had sex in a while. I really want to have sex with you. We use the same term, like, I miss you. And then we'll always preface it with, like, I miss you, but you know what? I really just miss you. I really just miss spending time with you. We're spinning in different orbits. And then she'll laugh, or I'll laugh, be like, yeah, exactly. Like, okay, get your calendar out. Let's carve out some time either. And the other thing that's kind of cool too is that, date time for us anyway, I don't know if you and Marilyn have experienced this, I'm sure you have, is that, hey, this weekend or this week's kind of crazy. What do you say we get up an hour early and have coffee before the kids get up? Like, just spending time, like morning breath and all, roll out of bed in your pajamas, get a cup of coffee and talk like an hour before the kids get up. Like, to me, that's worth its weight in gold. We don't need no fancy dinner. We don't need like all this other stuff going on. No makeup for her or whatever. Let's just spend time together.
Yeah. You and I think a whole lot alike, because we call it parallel tracks. You just kind of end up parallel tracks. She's in her world, I'm in my world. Same thing, different wording. But it's like you lose the oneness, you lose the closeness, you lose all of those things when you don't spend time together. And when you do spend time together, you do life together as a family unit. You don't have two people trying to manage life separately under the same roof. And back to your Gottman example, there's that middle slice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I want to get to this part in your book that you talk about in your book, which is performance-based marriage versus grace-based marriage. Tell us what that means.
Well, I'll start with performance-based. Performance-based is where love is given and taken away based on how you perceive you're being treated. So Marilyn's respecting me, being nice to me, showing desire for me. We're coming together sexually. I'm really nice to her. Well, she struggles. She's not giving me much time. She's dominated by the kids. I walk in, I feel invisible. Well, I withdraw myself from her. I'm kind of snappy with her. So how I love her is dependent on what I perceive to be her performance toward me. So that's a performance-based marriage. That's where it's like love is given and taken away based on how you perceive you're being treated at the time. So that's a performance-based, and that's where we were. Then a grace-based marriage is basically like, look, Marilyn, I just love you. I love you when you do poorly. I love you doing well. I love you when you spend a ton of time with me. I love it when life gets the better of you. And then I'm consistent because I'm loving her. Like, because, you've mentioned I'm faith-based background. So my belief is that, I've been given the grace of Jesus, forgiveness. I live in a state of grace and forgiveness, and I'm called to give that to my spouse. And it really simplifies things. It's like, I just love Marilyn Rhoads. Marilyn perfect? No. Does life get the best of Marilyn sometimes? Yeah. I'm a lot harder to love than Marilyn, but Marilyn just loves me. She loves me. Do I get overcommitted? Yes. Do I have a lot of the same ditches I have when we got married? Yes. But we just love one another. We're fascinated with one another, warts and all. And the cool thing with the grace-based approach, it's like nobody knows the bad about me like Marilyn Rhoads. Nobody has a better case against me than Marilyn Rhoads. Nobody could humiliate me like Marilyn Rhoads. And I have no bigger fan in the entire world. When I speak and when I do things, nobody looks at me in a higher regard than Marilyn looks at me. And it's beautiful. It really is. It's like you're fully known and you're fully accepted, and it creates such a secure and fun relationship, frankly.
I think you're right on that one. I've never ever heard performance-based marriage versus grace-based, but I think that's so important. Even if I look at Jessica and I's relationship, the first half was the performance-based. Mm-hmm. No kidding around. Like, I remember if she wasn't getting some needs met, mm-hmm. She would be, and this was even like, she wouldn't even do this, I don't think, on a conscious level, but she did it more of a reactive level. And I did the exact same. It's mm-hmm. like, if I'm not getting my needs met, or if I'm not getting this or that, then I'm going to hold back, mm-hmm. whatever it is that's important to you. And whether it's affection, whether it's love, whether it's attention or whatever. And I think that I don't know if that's part of just human nature in general, or if that's something that maybe we're indoctrinated as we get older, or how we were raised. I don't know. But we do this, it's interesting with the grace-based, she and I have gone through really fascinating seasons over the past like 5 years. So Jess has always been a very fit person. She weighs about 135 pounds normally, right? Even after 4 boys. She hit a snag with her weight where she was about 155, 160 for like 3 straight years. And it was very interesting because like she could not lose weight to save her life, no matter what she was doing. She tried trainers, she tried this, she tried that, she tried everything. Nothing was working. Finally, this past year, she's managed to drop 30 pounds and she's back to that 135 spot. But I for 3 years, like, she was so frustrated, so depressed, didn't feel comfortable in her own skin, like literally just was kind of a shell of who she was. She even got to the point where she's like, I don't want to even try the next new thing because it's just going to fail. And that created like a tremendous amount of emotional stress on her. And it created some stress in our relationship. But during that time, I was very graceful with her. I gave her that space, and just knowing like sooner or later she's going to come out of this and it'll be just fine. And then the interesting thing is, as you and I were talking before we hit record, as soon as she loses that weight, I injure my knee and I needed surgery, and I've gone through like months and months of now rehab and it's been really crazy. I've now gained weight and been in a season, quite frankly, of just depression because I can't do what I used to. I'm getting there and rehabbing, but I couldn't do what I used to do right now. And I'm in this season of sort of recovery and limitation. And all my doc and my physical therapist are like, dude, just give yourself like another 3-4 months. You'll be back to normal, but you got to give yourself some patience. And I'm in that season now of like, just been like so frustrated, losing patience with myself, and she's now giving me that grace. She's like, isn't it fascinating? Like how our seasons have flip-flopped. Like I went through this and now you're going through that. And it's like, I'm over here doing really, really well. And now you're not doing so well. And like, so it's really interesting, but how we give each other. And many times I've been like, I feel like I'm so sorry. I was like, I know I'm not myself right now. I'm really, really trying. And she'll just smile and she'll be like, you were patient with me for like 3 years.
Yeah. But
She's like, I got you. Right.
And you realize how awesome, because it's like, she knows, it's like, you love her. You don't love you don't love the 130-pound her. You don't love the happy her. You don't, yeah, exactly. And it shows when in those type of seasons, it proves it. It's like, look,
yeah,
I just like when Marilyn was down for a year with depression, anxiety, and all the stuff you went through, she's like, it strengthened. But now to your point, it flipped in the law. I mean, there's a point where, man, I had some real hard cases, difficult stuff happened. Anxiety, couldn't sleep, getting up at 3 a.m, working, snappy, cold, distant. I mean, I was just, dude, I was struggling. But same thing. She'd pursue me physically. She was kind to me. She was telling me how great. She just prayed. I mean, same deal. It's like she just showed, she just loves Brad Rhoads, and she doesn't love Brad Rhoads because what she gets from Brad Rhoads, because that season she didn't get squat from Brad Rhoads. And then, so you're right. It creates such a beautiful, secure relationship because, if you get knocked off your horse, your marriage is just going to get stronger.
That's so true. It's kind of funny. I was kind of smiling because, Jess always like, even when she was like 160, she's like, oh my God, like, how do you think I'm attractive? I was like, girl, like, woman, I like you curvy, woman. You're all like I could have cared less. I thought she was beautiful either way. Like, but she didn't see that. I'm curious though, with some of the things you've been through, you have a section in your book called Grace in Crisis, which is showing grace in crisis extends a lifeline to your marriage and our spouse's soul. And I think you're kind of alluding to maybe that a little bit and maybe some of the seasons you were talking about with maybe depression. But what does that mean, grace in crisis?
Well, so I'll just put legs on it and I'll just be authentic what occurred. So my daughter was 11. She came to bed with us, didn't normally come to bed. She couldn't sleep, didn't feel well. At midnight, she quit breathing completely. Just stopped. Marilyn's screaming. I'm running around the house trying to find a rescue inhaler. Marilyn's wailing. Then she just turns white, goes totally limp, call an ambulance. Turns out she had an extended grand mal seizure. Turned out she did come out of it okay. Well, at the same time, we have an infant that's not sleeping, and we have a kid that's got severe ADD. And I mean, she made a 9 on a test out of 100. Actually took some skill because of multiple choice. So she guessed she'd have made a 25. But so it just like all came on us, and we're still doing all these sleep deprived EEGs. We have other seizures every night. Marilyn's going to bed afraid that we're going to wake up and Madeline's going to be dead. And Marilyn, the most stable person I've ever met, the most mature person, all of a sudden is just gripped with anxiety and depression. But it's just, we understood grace in crisis. And it's like, I'm the man that gets the privilege of trying to help my babe through this. Yeah, so I tried. It's like, I'm gonna date you every single week. I'm gonna show you that even though you can't have fun, I think you're the most amazing thing God ever created. And didn't put any pressure on her. Didn't tell her you need to do this more, exercise more, sleep more. I mean, and then interesting, when she came out of it and the clouds lifted, I got this phone call that said, "Hey, Brad, I'm happy." I'm like, "What?" She goes, "I forgot what it felt like to be happy." She goes, "I don't even remember the last time I was happy, but I'm happy." And then she teared up and said, "And thank you. Just thank you for not telling me to sleep more and to exercise more and to get out with friends more and to read the Bible, pray." She goes, "Brett, I was barely getting by. Just thank you for just loving me." And that's what grace in crisis looks like. It's like, it's not taking offense that your spouse has nothing to give. It's going to war. I mean, pity the man that falls and has no one to help him up. So it's like, and it goes both ways. Like I said a minute ago, I had a long stretch in the law practice where, man, I didn't want to be miserable, but man, I was anxious. I was angry. I was mad at another lawyer. I was in, it was like, you know, I was in a war and handling it bad, you know, but was I fun to be married to? No. Was I cold? Yes. Was I snappy? Yes. Did I want to be those things? No. I just don't know why I couldn't pull myself out of it. But Marilyn's love for me never changed. And it just, that's what grace in crisis looks like. It's taking a rescue mentality, not an offense mentality, not being offended that your spouse is down. It's just saying, I don't care how long it takes. I'm going to love you until you come out of this. And when I said, till death do us part, you know what I meant? Till death do us part. When I said in good times and bad, you know what I meant? In good times and bad. So that's kind of a little bit of what it means, the grace in crisis. And the cool thing is we've had about 3 or 4 pretty rough seasons of crisis in our marriage, just not our marriage, but things around us.
Just things around, yeah.
Every one of them has just made us enjoy one another more and have a better relationship.
Can you give us an inside look at that situation a little deeper? And what I mean by that is, I remember, you know, so for instance, like Jessica, like she couldn't lose that weight that I was telling you about. Mm-hmm. But the thing was, it was more than just the weight. It was impacting, like, mm-hmm. you know, she was like, oh my God, this is my life. And in fact, in her mind, she was like, I'm only going to get bigger. Mm-hmm. Like, and there's nothing I can do about it. Like my weight is just, it's totally out of my control now. Which that really hit her emotionally. It hit her mentally. Mm-hmm. You know, it even like spiraled things like for her even more physically. And there were times, I know there were times, even though minimal, because I knew what not to do, that she would talk about these things, and they were so badly, I just wanted to give her a solution or mm-hmm. the cure, like sleep more, just right. Mm-hmm. And you're saying that perhaps when you and Marilyn were going through that, you didn't do that. I think there were times I absolutely did that because mm-hmm. she would look at me and be like, stop, I already know this stuff. Yeah. Okay. But, you know, I guess for you, it was more, what I'm picking up from you is it was more like creating the space and creating the space for her to talk. What did that look like for you?
It's just giving her space to talk. And then, I mean, I know she knows to exercise. I know she knows sleep's important. I know, but I knew she was just, what she needed from me was just space and to love her however she needs to take this journey. She went on a run one time, came back, let me turn this off, came back from the run and said, I just need to take our 5 kids and go to my parents' cabin for a month. I can't handle life. She's somebody that people are drawn to. So people want her to mentor her. People are calling her. She goes, I just need to check out of everything and leave for a month. I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, what the heck?
Did that actually happen?
Well, I started to do what you said, babe, you don't have the freedom to do that. There's 2 parents in the home. But then I thought, you know, whatever. I said, babe, whatever you need to get better, I'm in. So she left the cabin for a month. Every Thursday night, I'd go to the cabin, stay until first thing Monday morning, be back at work. Try to do a little stuff for work from the cabin on Fridays. And I'd see her Thursday to Monday. But that's her best friend called and said, I'm really worried about Marilyn because I've been calling her and she will not return my call. And it's been 3 weeks. So I called Marilyn. I said, Robin's worried about you. What do you want me to tell her? She said, tell her I'll call her back in July. I mean, that's how isolated we
July.
It was like, you know, the whole month away. Yeah. But it was, that's what Marilyn needed. And it's like, in her time there, she disconnected, and, you know, that was part of her healing process. And now, did I think that was the answer to me? Being with 5 kids by yourself did that sound relaxing to me? But that's what she needed, and that's what she did. I remember the first night she was gone, I came home from work, picked up wings, got my boxers, turned on the NBA, and I thought, it sounds bad, but I thought, you know, it's not as bad as I thought it's going to be. It's like,
oh my God,
you know, it sounds awful, but, you know, I was like thinking, but it's like, you know, make the most of it. So it's, you know, right. It's basically just like loving your spouse, whatever that looks like, whatever your spouse needs. Does your spouse need an ear? Does your spouse need service? Does your spouse, it's just showing them, man. It's like, I adore you. And then the whole time, Marilyn never felt, just like your wife, she never felt when she was going through all that you were rejecting her. You thought she was ugly. You weren't impressed by her. You were like, man, this isn't who I married. None of that. It just showed her that you love her.
I got to be honest with you, man. Like if Jess came to me and be like, hey, I need to go move away for a few months. I'd be like, wait, what?
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what was that like? What was that experience like for both of you as far as like, you were there, you were at home Monday through Thursday, spend time with her Thursday through Monday.
Yeah.
In that season, did that experience strengthen your relationship or was it scary and did it degrade it?
It strengthened it. Cause I did a lot of processing before I talk. And my initial thought was, you can't do that. It's a bad idea. And I got to stop this train. It's just, it's a bad idea. And then as I sat on, I thought, the posture I need is, babe, whatever it is that you feel you need to do to help you, I'm here. I'm your fan. I'm supportive. I'm behind it. So we talked on the phone while she was gone, and I would go on Thursdays to Mondays, and our time Thursdays and Mondays was great. And so that was our process. I had to balance mentally, because we all kind of want to exert control and have occur what we think is the solution. And to me, that seemed like a bad solution. And frankly, to another mother, it might have been a bad solution. But for her, it was the right solution. That's what she needed. She couldn't handle church pressures and people calling her and people wanting to talk to her. She has a huge conscience. She can't say no to people very well. So for her, she needed to just break free to try to get better.
Wow, man. That is unreal. And obviously it worked out. Mm-hmm. And it's what she needed. You gave her the space to do it, and it's pretty fascinating. As far as I know we're kind of getting towards more at the end of the show here, but I want to give men some really tactical, proactive things that they can do. So I actually, it's a two-part question. Mm-hmm. I want to talk to the men out there that already have what they would identify with as, hey, this is a pretty good relationship, right? And those are the men that are like, I really want to keep this thing going, and not even just keep it going, but actually elevate it even more. So I want to know, in your opinion, what are some proactive things we can do besides the date time? And then the other question I have for you is more, I would say, reactive, which I don't really like, but it is what it is. There's a lot of people that might be in a season of like that camp 2 that we were talking about, where they're just like, we're settled, we're sort of like stuck, we don't really know what to do. And then there are other people who are just like, yeah, I'm just living my own individual life under this roof and there's no fixing this thing. But maybe if there was a hint of belief or hope that I could do it. So I would say a proactive approach of things we could do. And then if they're in seasons of really, challenge, like what's more reactive things that would really work well?
Well, we'll start with the proactive. Everything, the most fun things in life are things that are growing, Yes. So one, I would say there's no ceiling in marriage. I mean, when I thought it couldn't get better, it's just gotten better and better. It's just, we got more history together. So it's just like, if you're in that camp that's just trying to get better than you already are, pay real close attention to your wife and just listen and then respond based upon listening. So I'll give you a really simple example. So I'm in the Nashville airport. My wife, there's this lady walked by. My wife says, man, I love those ladies' shoes. Those are really cool. Well, then Marilyn runs over to the bathroom. I walk over to the woman and said, look, I'm not weird or anything, but where'd you get your shoes? I said, and she told me, I said, so I wrote down the brand, everything. I know Marilyn's size. I just bought them online. 2 days later, those shoes are on our porch. And Marilyn's like, oh, that's so cool. And she loved them. I mean, they're more expensive than I would have liked. Lady bought expensive shoes, but that just breathes life. And when you're like intentionally paying attention and then trying to respond based on what you're learning, it's a ton of fun as a husband. And man, your relationship is it's rocking. When you get stuck in your life and you're not really getting into hers and really responding, it can be good and you can be dating, but it can still be better. And then the longer you do it, you just become an expert lover of your spouse. And then all of a sudden the physical, the emotional, it just gets cooler and cooler. It's kind of like a snowball that keeps going downhill. And just to encourage you, the way you're doing marriage now, it's only going to get better. I mean, and the trials are going to make it better. The good times are going to make it better. Everything's going to make it better. So just don't. So to that couple you're talking about that's doing well but wants to do even better, just don't take your foot off the gas and just keep trying to just creatively enjoy your bride. So that's the one on the growth piece. On the one about that couple that's stuck. So we'll give it an analogy. Say somebody's 5'11", 215 and hadn't worked out in 2 years. And when they go to the gym, they're out of breath. They hate it. After 15 minutes, they want to leave. And they feel like they can't ever get, what's their answer?
What do you mean that instead of leaving?
What's the answer is you continue working in the gym, maybe the first day 10, and then 11 minutes, and 12 minutes, and then you work on your diet. And then over a long period of time, all of a sudden you get healthier and healthier and healthier. Then all of a sudden you're in good shape. But it's not something that occurred overnight. So if you're in that reactive piece, you say, look, I'm going to invest in my marriage every day, and we're going to date, we're going to spend time, we're going to talk, and I'm going to trust the process. And I'm going to do it over a long period of time. And then if you do that over a long period of time, you will see measurable growth, just like you would see if you're in really bad shape and went to the gym 5 days a week for 6 straight months. But few people do that. Why?
Yeah.
Because you don't see the immediate results, right? You're in a bad spot. You go to the gym, it's fit to forget it. But then you're stuck in a place of unhealth the rest of your life. And that's the same reason people are stuck in a place of unhealth in marriage the rest of their life all too often.
You know, this is where I get, I really get passionate about the cost, right? So like, let's take let's take the example of, you know, working out in the gym, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a cost to your gym membership that's financial. And there's a cost of investment in time and taking care of your health. There's a cost to that. And it's not easy. It's not hard. In fact, even if you get a personal trainer, that's going to be even more of a hefty price tag. But what costs are you actually avoiding and what ROI are you enjoying?
Bingo.
So, you know, there's a cost also to being insanely unhealthy, obese with diabetes, high cholesterol, and heart disease. There's a massive cost to that, right? That has nothing to do with gym memberships and time you spend in the gym. In fact, I would argue that that is much more costly, much more painful. And, you know, which one, it really boils down to which one are you willing to pay? Which one are you willing to do?
And one of them's a lot worse than, I mean, I've had couples in crisis counseling say, what you're telling me is really hard. And I said, with all due respect, your life looks a lot harder than mine. And I said, and by the way, I didn't call and ask you for advice. I said, it's like, I mean, obviously there's some pain points. I mean, I really resonate with what you're saying.
Yeah. And then what about the couples that think that there's no way out of this, no matter what we do? And that's literally in the back of their mind. That's their foundational part of thinking. But I honestly think, I mean, I look at the guys that we've helped over the years. We've helped over 4,000 men in 8 years. And I've seen men and relationships with their spouses. And there are times where I've seen one like, there's no way. Like, there's no way that this couple's going to make it back. And some of them absolutely surprised me. We actually had a guy that came and started doing life with us 3 years ago. Him and his wife were, I would say, in camp 3, you know, like just totally individual, you know, lives. And she had a boyfriend. They were still married. She had a boyfriend she was dating. And I mean, like, there was no connection whatsoever. And he came in and he told me this, you know, upon entering our program. And he's like, what do you think? I'm like, listen, man, I'm direct, and I'm never gonna tell anybody that we're the silver bullet, and I'll never tell anybody that, you know, we're the bag of goods and service that is going to restore everything. Like, I got to be honest. This one's tough. This one's really tough. I was like, you know, but I've also seen things turn around, and dude, I was floored. I think he showed up, you know, every week doing the work, and within, I think it was 6 or 7 months, she had broken things off with that guy. They both had committed to restoring their marriage. And he wasn't dating anybody either. Like, they were fully committed. And I think they've been that way now for 2 or 3 years now. But it's amazing, I think, when people think that there's no way that this is going to turn around, but yet some situations can turn around. What do you think is the catalyst for change when it comes to looking at a situation like that and you're thinking, man, like, this one's really far gone?
It's two of them. One is hope, and two is a mutual willingness. And I've not had a case where there was hope and a mutual willingness that didn't end up in a really good spot. I mean, that scenario you described, I've seen happen over and over and over, where they're now like, I told one guy, his wife was in an affair. You know, his wife wanted to leave the affair, but there's a lot of, you can imagine the wreckage. And I said, you got two tough choices. One, live divorced with step parents and your kids going back and forth the rest of your life. The tough, working to forgive and rebuilding. I said, one of them's going to be hard for a year. The one of them's going to be hard the rest of your life. I said, it's ultimately your call. I'll help you. And he sent me an email that said, I take option 2. I want to work to restore my relationship. Tell me what to do. And dude, they're rocking it now. They've got multiple kids adopted. I mean, there's so much cool fruit coming, but it's one is hope. It really helps people to know that other people have been where they are and now they're doing great. And 2 would be a mutual willingness. And 3, kind of like you've helped couples, as we do at Grace Marriage, we provide an ongoing structure for people to invest. It's a proactive wellness approach, but also helps people in reaction. So we say, hey, if you want to do it, we'll show you how. And we've got the process to help you.
I love that, man. Well, I want to give you a moment here to talk about where men can find you and your book, your program, if they want to connect with you in Maryland.
Yeah. You can find us at gracemarriage.com. And what we do is we equip local churches with ongoing marriage ministries, but we also help individual couples get on a proactive path that gives you some outside structure and accountability to do marriage well. So you can find us at gracemarriage.com. You can find the book at gracemarriage.com or any major book retailer, Amazon, wherever. So, but yeah, if any of you would like to, and one warning I'd tell men is usually men think their marriage is a lot better than it is. And most crisis counseling that I do, the man will look at me and say, hey, man, we were doing fine 2 weeks ago. I mean, it happens over and over.
I bet. Yeah,
Men are oftentimes at the edge of the cliff of marital collapse and they think everything's fine. And by the time they get around to having the willingness, it's too late and she's checked out. Like one friend of mine said, hey, she had no relational change left in her pocket. So if your spouse is calling out at all, wanting a better relationship, wanting more time, not responding is really dangerous.
Well, isn't it true? I heard this statistic that when a woman says out loud, I'm just not sure about us anymore, or I think we should separate, or I don't know if I love you, or maybe we should look at other options. She's been thinking about that for 2 years and just hasn't said it out loud. Is that true?
At least, and I think it was Gottman, but I'm not sure which study it was. But the average couple that seeks professional help in marriage through a counselor, they've been unhappy in their marriage for 6 years before their first contact with a pastor or counselor. So
Wow.
if the words are coming out, there's a good chance there's been some underlying misery for a long time that like red alert needs to be addressed immediately.
Man, I've heard that over and over again, but that's really powerful. It just goes to show that being proactive is such a better way. So, gentlemen, not to worry. We're going to have all the links in the show notes if you want to connect with Brad and if you want to connect with Marilyn as well. We'll also have a link for their book in there, their website. Head on over to thedadedge.com/Friday 140 for this show. Again, thedadedge.com/Friday 140. Brad, from my heart to yours, thank you so much for coming on. You shared a lot with us. Why couples get complacent in marriages, what we can do about it. Defining exactly what a date is, right? And I think we really surprised some guys on what a quote unquote date is all about. Why you don't want your spouse to, why Brad and I both believe why you need to be married first and parents second. The impact of showing your kids what a good marriage looks like and a proactive approach, and what hope and mutual willingness has to do with restoration. So thanks again, my man. This was awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate the influence you're having.
You bet. Talk soon, brother.
See ya.